And the name of the Torah portion always comes from a first major word, of course, and Re'eh starts off with Re'eh Anochi Notin Lefneichem Hayom Bracha Uklala, which means see, Re'eh, see this day I set before you, God says, as a blessing and a curse. And if it's going to be a blessing, then you're going to obey the mitzvot of Adonai, your God. Et bracha asher tishmeu el mitzvot Adonai Elohechem, asher anochi mitzvat etchem hayom. If you obey all of these mitzvot upon this day, then here's going to be everything else that follows. But the thing that I want to point out is just really the first word, and it's re'eh, see. We have learned over the years that people absorb information differently, different ways, some by sight, some by hearing, some by touching. Those Israelites who are not persuaded by hearing God's commandments at Sinai or by hearing Moses' teachings are asked to see the difference that following God's ways can make in one's life. Re'eh, sometimes we have to open our eyes a little wider, or really just differently than we're used to, in order to see what's totally right in front of us all along. We also have in the word, in those first couple of lines, we have the word tishma'u, which is obey, but the root really is connected to hear, like in the word shema. We do it in English too. When I say, listen to me, it's really do what I'm telling you. It's not really to hear. So there is a sense of obey when we use it in the biblical Hebrew or in our conversational English. But the message in the text is to listen differently. Open a new channel. Get rid of the static that we might find. I know whenever I say that, a lot of younger folks have no idea what static is because their only experience is pushing a button. They don't really know how to tune a channel or turn a dial, but that's for another time. I really see and sense that there's a lot of static in our experiences, and it's hard to get rid of it, but we don't always mess with the dial, so to speak, and try and find just the right way to hear the message. When we are open to listening to different sources as sources for inspiration, as sources for responsibility, then we might just hear God's voice a little bit better among all the other conflicting messages competing for our attention in this really noisy world. But here's the thing for me, and I guess this is the sermon that I need to give. I don't know if you need to hear it, but I need to give it. Whenever I see Re'eh, this Torah portion, my memory is kind of triggered for me. I remember at this time, this Sidra, 10 years ago, I had 20/20 vision, and on Friday. And on Monday, it was 20/30 vision. And on Wednesday, it was 20/50 vision. And on Thursday, it was 20/60 vision. And by Friday, I lost most of the color recognition and everything appeared in a hazy fog in one eye. It was like looking through clouds, or maybe somebody putting Vaseline on your glasses. I never needed reading glasses back then. But the first time I went to the doctor, they were like, oh, you turned 40, so just get used to it. But no, that wasn't it. This became a source of, let's say some level of challenge for me, not just because I couldn't see so well in my left eye, but I was still newish in my last congregation. And at this time, it was really right before Rosh Hashanah. One could argue that it's kind of poor timing for a rabbi to lose some sense of vision right before Rosh Hashanah. The month leading up to Rosh Hashanah is our version of tax season. But as I lost my ability to see clearly, that experience gave me a kind of clarity that even as a rabbi then, I had missed. It was there, always in front of me, but I would miss it. because I was still starting my family and our kids were young, and I was thinking about, my career path. And yes, rabbis also think about careers. But can we open our eyes and perhaps discover something that has always been there all along, if only we would look a little bit different? We know in the Haftarah it says, incline your ear just a little bit, listen a little bit differently. There are questions related to my blindness at the time that I think a lot about as a rabbi. How many times has our suffering stopped us from recognizing help even when it's at our doorstep? How many times have we failed to perceive the deep wells of holiness or soulfulness or God's strength that could sustain us? How have we developed blind spots to others' experiences in this world and judging them for not responding in the way that we think that they should? Or other blind spots and not necessarily standing up for others who are really just like you and me. But different circumstances, different experiences make it so that we feel that we're different and we don't get involved to help. I think we believe too often that we have more rights as individuals than responsibilities as a community. See, this day I set before you. It's a blessing and a curse. Look. Life is complicated. There's good, there's bad, chaos and closeness. Look, there's going to be some rough spots in our lives, and we're going to experience hurt. Or people we love are going to experience hurt. Where do we find our resilience? So I want to say, if we open our eyes, we can see things maybe a little bit differently during this time of pandemic, when our vulnerability feels high and our isolation or alienation or aloneness is increased. Maybe we can have a sense that there is a Holy One that can help sustain our footsteps, that can help us find the strength to deal with whatever comes our way. And we can recognize that congregation is more than oneg and b'nei mitzvah. It's so much more. It's a relationship where we strive to step forward and accompany and grow together, learn together, embrace Torah together, respond to the brokenness out in our world with presence and with hope. Take a look. Open your eyes. Help is there. I really feel that way. And doesn't mean that I believe that God's going to cure what ails us. I think I had good doctors that helped. And that challenge hasn't gone away. I see better. But God can't, in my humble or not belief, isn't that God is going to lift the challenge up for me, but is going to accompany me, walk with me, support me. And I believe God can do that with you. And relationships really can change our realities. Now more than ever, we need to build and rebuild a community of meaning and belonging, not so Jewish life survives, not so our synagogue stays afloat, but because Judaism has something to say to our lives and to say to the world. Because faith can give us strength when we feel depleted and injured. Because the traumas of our people's memory is part of who we are, so we need to respond to those experiencing trauma and pain, poverty and illness, because for Egypt, for us, is never far from us. So you don't need to lose your eyesight in order to finally have vision. It's not ambition, it's not goals, but a vision of clarity, of meaning, with righteous generosity, accompaniment of others on their journeys, and a sense of radical empathy that For me, I am just yearning for. Ve'eh anochi, see, this day I set before you blessing and curse, says God. Anochi noten lifnechem hayom. I don't think God really is giving out blessings and curses. We'll have to face blessings and curses in our lives. The main thing to recognize is we have choices. We have choices on how to respond to the highs and lows that confront us. Today, it feels like we're confronted with too much. There's just too much. But retreating doesn't bring the hardship of curses, not as a punishment from God, but retreating can bring the hardship of curses due to the passivity of human beings, of standing idly by. Blessings emerge from when we bring our whole selves to help restore brokenness to each other and to our world. And it's your choice. It's mine too. So I hope and I pray that our faith can bring clarity, vision, strength, sustenance, and hope to carry forward. Friends, let's look into the Siddur and move toward the conclusion.